Welcome, fellow explorers. My name is Christian Alexanderson, and this is Hemlocks to Hellbenders, a podcast highlighting Pennsylvania's parks, forests, and great outdoors. There are few sights I enjoy seeing as much as people having fun in Pennsylvania state parks. Children playing tag and hide-and-go-seek, adults telling stories around the picnic table, friends catching out while grilling. And never have I seen so many people having such a good time than on Memorial Day weekend at Beltzville State Park. Beltsville was the last stop of the day for my wife Abby and I as we visited parks in eastern Pennsylvania. Upon entering the park, located in the southern foothills of the Pocono Mountains, it was evident that this was a popular park. By midday, the parking lots leading to Beltzville State Park were nearly packed. Thousands of people had set up spots with their family and friends. Some hung hammocks in the shady tree-covered lawn or brought canopies to stay out of the blazing sun, while others set up their picnic blankets and towels in the sun and on the sandy beach. My afternoon of Beltsville reminded me of my summers at the Jersey Shore. That's the one in New Jersey, not Pennsylvania. The wonderful sights, sounds, and smells instantly brought me back. Friends were playing dominos, families shared the most amazing food, and kids were building sandcastles on the beach. In Beltzville Lake, boaters and jet skiers cruised around while soaking up the beautiful weather. And while the lake and the beach are the focal points of this energetic park, it's got plenty for those looking to explore. Beltsville has trails for hiking and mountain biking, thousands of acres for birding and wildlife watching, a scenic covered bridge, and so much more. But before we learn more about this park, here's the stats. Beltsville State Park is a 302-acre park located in Carbon County. Available activities include hiking, boating, swimming, mountain biking, picnicking, fishing, hunting, wildlife watching, and cross-country skiing. A notable feature of the park is its 949-acre Beltzville Lake and sandy beach. Beltsville State Park officially opened in 1972 and was developed as a portion of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Flood Control Project. Nearby towns include Jim Thorpe, Stroudsburg, and Allentown. State lands that are close by include Hickory Run, Lehigh Gorge, Tuscarora, Locust Lake, and Big Pocono State Park, as well as Pinchot State Forest. You may enjoy the park if you enjoy a lakeside retreat with your family, friends, and neighbors. I'm excited to welcome Diane Schweikuski to the podcast. Diane is the chair of the Friends of Beltsville State Park. Diane, thanks so much for joining the program.
Well, thanks for having me. This is great to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
How would you describe the park to someone who's never been there before?
I would describe it as a awesome park. It's, in comparison, a small park. However, we have such diversity and such ability that I don't know. I can't get enough of it most of the time. You know, there's certain times, we're not able to go in per se, but it definitely is like we live here at the park practically. So it's like my backyard.
Tell me a little bit about the Friends group. What do you do? What volunteer opportunities are available?
Well, that's a good question. I lived in Bucks County most of my adult life, and I knew about Friends Group because Lake Nockamixon had one. So when we were looking to buy, we bought this house here in Carbon County. Probably in the first 2 weeks, I went to the park office and I asked if they had a Friends Group, and they kind of laughed at me and they said, "No, do you want to start one?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't think so, not at this time." And I didn't really know what it was about, but I had come home and I went online to look up Friends Group through PPFF. And I said to my husband, it would be a no-brainer to have a Friends Group here because it's all written for you. PPF did such a great job. And so my mom then came to live with us, and I was her caregiver. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So after she died, obviously I didn't know anybody here. I had tuned into the local news station and I saw the Beltsville looking for friends. And I said, "Joe, maybe they're going to start a Friends Group." So I was excited to go, hoping, it was going to be a group. And that's where I met Marcy. And there were 6 or 7 of us there. And as it goes, when they start Friends Groups, they tell you about it. And then we get a survey through the mail. And of course, I filled it out. The next thing I know, there was 2 of us that had said that we had been in leadership. And I didn't really want to be in leadership. I just wanted to be a part of a group. However, I wanted a group, so I opted to be co-leader. And it was really funny because we didn't see much of Gary. He was great, but he was kind of invisible. Anyway, we started, our first event was a cleanup. And again, didn't know much about it, but I knew partially what, and I would say to people, this is kind of something I want. I was a part of a Friends Group back in Bucks County. I was on the board of a nature center and used to teach at one. So that's 2015. Uh, we had no treasurer, no secretary, as things go. And here we are in 2024, almost 100 members with a board, and we do a little bit of everything. I think we're kind of a unique one. Um, Obviously, we the mission really is to raise money for our parks as chapter chairs and chair people, and then we have a pollinator garden that we started because we didn't have any money. We had help, um, and we just keep progressing to like we have stewards, we have sawyers. Um, yeah, I could go on and on and on.
That's the wonderful thing about a friends group is that if you have a skill or if you are at least willing to learn one, there's going to be an opportunity for you to volunteer.
Absolutely, and that's what I say to people. They have, well, they call me boss, which I think is funny, because I say, listen, yes, maybe I am the leader. However, I'm a community, collaborative person. It's not about me; it's about us. And the joke is, wait till Diane gets you, and then she'll have her fishing line, and she reels you in. So don't tell her too much, but I listen to everybody, the new people, and particularly because we have weekly hikes on Thursdays. And if a new person joins us, yeah, I typically hang back and ask questions and talk with them, and then I listen and then I say, hey, would you like this or that? But the joke is, she'll get you, but it's all because people want to, you know, it's not forced. So we are looking for more worker bees. I think as any volunteer group, there's your worker bees and then your doers when you ask them. So, but it's been what 2015 to 2024. I wondered if there's like a 2-year term, if it's ever going to be up as chairperson. So far, I don't think it is. It's a lifetime thing, I think. But yeah, we just keep growing, in the beginning years, it was like, how do we grow? And we would do expos and various other things, and COVID shut us down as a group, and then we were given permission to open. So at that point, it was actually easier to manage because it was just us. And so that was the thought of, hey, why don't we charge a membership? Because we try to raise money. Why not, have a closed group? We joke about being the snobs now. However, it's been easier because obviously we have the ability to have things just for friends groups. And we have something called Team Reach where we can put all our events up. You can come or not come. And then we have bi-monthly meetings. And, we work, throughout the year as a board. But we stay in touch with our trail maintenance and our pollinator garden, our conservation project, the hikes, kayaking, biking. So I, I think for me, I say to people, it's kind of like I didn't know a soul when I moved here. And in my grief of dealing with my mother,
Mhm.
that I found a family of people. And truly, they are my friends. That's like my social life in park.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What do you love most about the park?
I love that I'm 2 miles from the park entrance. I love the fact that we can get in our boat and drive down in 2 minutes and be at the boat launch. I love that we can kayak out of Preacher's Camp and wind up through the Wild Creek Arm. I love that we can choose, you know, from a short trail to a long trail. And I love that we can just go to the park and sit at the beach and really just revel in its beauty and find different things all the time.
One of the biggest attractions to the park is the 949-acre Beltsville Lake. What sort of water activities are popular with the visitors?
Whereas we are in the month of June currently, we have jet skiers, kayakers, boaters, and the beach area for the swimming, which is just a smaller area, but those are very popular. And often on weekends, if it's really hot, we tend to close due to capacity. Um, so it's kind of a shame that we have that, but it kind of shows that people love to recreate in our state parks. And we're so close to, New York, Allentown, and Philadelphia that in 90 minutes you can be in the middle of nowhere practically. So I personally like to boat, and I personally like to take my grandchildren out on the boat and go fishing, and then kayak with my husband.
I was actually at the park over Memorial Day weekend, and the beach was phenomenal. It's a 525-foot sand beach, which is open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It was really popular while I was there. I'm guessing it's popular all summer long.
Yes and no. Like you during the weekends, obviously we close more often, but during the week, like, my husband and I'll go down at 6 in the nighttime and just have, like a sunset kind of, dinner picnic type of thing. And then when my grandbabies come during the week, we all sometimes have the beach to ourselves. So it does depend upon the temperature, and it depends upon, whether it's a weekend or not. We went in the park over Memorial Day because the friends group were asked to come in, not asked, we volunteer to come in and help with the Leave No Trace and education, and teaching people about bringing their own trash bags and making sure you clean up after yourself. So, it's always fun to interact with the people in there too, because, they're there with their family. Unfortunately, the language is a barrier. We do have a new member who is bilingual, and hopefully she'll be able to come in on a weekend, to interact more with the people. But in the very beginning, when we started with the bags and Leave No Trace, we were kind of at the park entrance. And often, we would do the like thumbs up, take care of our planet, one home. And so when I get to ride around on the little gator on the weekends that we're in, we ask people if they brought their trash bags, and then they're doing this. So I think it's a lot of repeat, visitors. And we've, been invited to be in tug of war games with people. We've been offered all kind of food of all, nationalities. So the people in the park, much to some people's, description of our park, are having fun.
Yeah, when I saw the beach, it was so lively and fun and entertaining. There were so many families out that were either cooking or playing games, throwing frisbee, relaxing on the beach, relaxing on the grass. It's not something you see everywhere. So when you see it at Beltsville, it is a kind of a special moment to see so many people having fun in such a smaller area.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like lake beaches myself, like oceans are okay. So there's just something about sitting there and looking across the lake and seeing nothing but, greenery and stuff, for me, the smell of a lake is something I really, really like.
Fishing is a very popular activity in the park at both Pohopoco Creek and Beltsville Lake. They're stocked annually. What kind of fish can anglers expect to encounter?
Well, that was a good question. My husband is a fisherman, so when we do go out, a lot of times it's like bluegills and perch, and he did get a walleye years ago. So what they're known for are their walleye, striped bass, large and smallmouth bass, musky perch, and trout. And the Pohopoco, my husband's part of the Pohopoco Rod and Gun Club, so they'll stock below the dam. I don't know if it's like twice a year. And then the Wild Creek is I don't know how to say it, it's a class one or something trout stream. The Poco, like if you're truly a real fisher person, most people, like my husband used to fish the lake and Poco when he was a teenager, and he came out of the Philadelphia area. So um, I'm not quite the fisherwoman that he is a fisherman. But yeah, some big bass, I don't know. Have pictures and stuff, so he's a depth finder, so we're always traveling around to find it and hit on the spots and stuff.
In addition to fish, migrating waterfowl use Beltsville Lake as a respite. What kind of birds can visitors see?
Yes, and I would have to say our educator, Rob Bergstresser, he is a bird man and he's a seasonal educator. So he would probably be really upset because I'm not such a birder, but in the waterfowl, when I looked it up, are ringneck ducks, white-winged scooters, long-tailed ducks, and common loons. Just, that's just a small variety of it. And several years ago, when my husband and I were walking, probably was in the fall, uh, lots of people take pictures, and I end up meeting birders, which I find is a great group of people because, I can learn from them because they know their bird species and their everything species. Like I'll never stop learning.
And your location to a lot of birders in Philadelphia must make it pretty popular too. I know there's a number of birding organizations in Philadelphia, In Color Birding Club, that are not that far away for them to come up and kind of explore what you guys have to offer.
Yeah, in fact, Peace Valley Nature Center, back in Bucks County where I used to teach, they have a huge birding population, and part of my quest was to find the birders and see if they would like to become members, of our group. But a lot of times, what I find are the birders up here are more solitary, and they kind of, I totally respect that, But whenever I find, I'm always asking what they found. We've actually had some eagles, which kind of do nest around here, and you probably were going to ask about birds, and that there was a young Eagle Scout project. A young man put in an osprey nest. So we all keep an eye on it. So far, they haven't nested in the osprey nest, but I did see that Rob had posted that he had seen an osprey.
Oh, great.
So, so yeah, there's, uh, like I said, if you take any program with Rob, he's like a true birder person, which is always interesting. Among the owls, a couple years ago, Rob did a program just for the friends group. At night we had a bonfire, and then it was an a program. So as a teacher naturalist back in Bucks County, my interest lies in identification of everything. So like I said, I'll never know it all.
If a visitor has a full day to explore the park, what would you recommend they do?
Good question. So I think it depends seasonally, right? Because I know for a fact our park is a 4 season park, because we live it, Obviously, this time of the year, you'd want to come during the week if you want to get hiking trails, because they do close our trails, most of our trails on the weekends, just because the capacity at the day use and not enough manpower. But definitely hiking, picnicking for sure. And then this time of the year, if you want to, come hang out at the beach or bring a boat or a kayak. In the winter time, cross country skiing, snowshoeing. Our friends group, we meet year round, so we're hiking in the snow. Springtime and fall time are my favorite here because obviously the smells of things being reborn in the spring, and then the fall, the colors. When we moved to Carbon, um, the locals call people leaf peepers, all those that come to see the foliage. So it's kind of funny now because when we bike sometimes on the DNL and we see people doing like the river sports, and they're taking a break and we're saying hi to them and they're like, oh, we wish we lived here. And we say, we do. And then when we kayak the Wild Creek, the beautiful arm, we always joke about, man, we have to travel so far to get home. So really, we moved here mainly because of the park, the game lands, the water authority. So we're probably 20,000 acres of open space around us, and the park at 3,000 acres, and the lake at 900 acres.
The park features a beautiful covered bridge that was built in 1841. Can you tell us about it and where visitors can find it?
Yes, it's called the Buck Bridge. It lists as called the Harity Bridge, but our one of our beginning projects really was try to restore it. It's considered a historic bridge, but not from a historical sense, because when they floated it down the Poco and landed it to where it is right now in the day use, and I'm not sure what parking lot they have, A, B, C, and D in the day use. You can park in one of those lots and turn and see the covered bridge. Yeah, the Buck family was the original family that built the bridge, and it's called a King Truss Bridge. And I didn't know much about it until our group tried to take on the restoration of it. And there's not many King Truss Bridge, built. It's kind of a very unique thing. And I also found out in that process that there's covered bridge people, just like there's people that like birds and
Sure.
people that
Yeah.
like planes. And so there was great support from everybody outside of the Beltsville area for that project, but we unfortunately just couldn't raise enough money. It's now kind of getting closer to disrepair. So our manager said he's still working on it, and we kind of hope the DCNR can come in and really fund that and the bridge is our logo. So we take special pride in that bridge. I know there's a lot of weddings that come for backdrops and whatnot. So if you're into cover bridge, and there's little what do they call those little way stations with some information about it.
Well, I hope you're going to be able to either raise that money or get that money because that'd be a shame if that went to disrepair. That's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Like literally, we worked a whole year at it. We had lots of interviews, and I mean, I have a binder pretty big, but it was just something that just, you know, unfortunately, and then even our park is in two townships, Towamensing and Franklin, and I believe the covered bridge could be in the Franklin township because Towamensing actually has a historical committee. So, they also want to, keep everything historical in Carbon County. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a farming community and a strong Pennsylvania Dutch. And I think that change is difficult, as we probably are the outsiders, right? But I have an affinity for history and old buildings.
Yeah. The Friends Group holds a number of events for the community. What are some of your favorites?
Well, I guess in the very beginning years, we had something called Art in the Park. And so I had contacted local artisans that came in. At the time, we did not charge the artisans for a spot. And we had a local, what do you call it, like a music venue in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania called Godfrey Daniels that does like folk music. So Godfrey Daniels would come up and they'd have music playing, and then the artists would have their vendor tables, and we had some artists actually doing activities. We ran that for about 3 years. Then we ran into issues with the the artists having to have like their sales tax information. So then we started a fall fest, and the friends worked really hard at that. Where we had pumpkins we gave away to the children. Again, Godfrey Daniel would come up. We had food. We went through like the friends went through the Penn State Cooking for Crowds, so we were able to serve like baked goods. And most of those events all happened, and the weather was against us. Um, we have hosted first day hikes since, oh gosh, I forget what year we started. And this year we had over 400. So
Oh,
we, the
wow, that's
friends,
incredible.
yeah,
400 is a lot of people for a first day of hike. I've been to several. That's a lot.
that was, yeah, we were watching it growing. And then so we had an Earth Day hike, and the numbers were really climbing. And we thought, we had like 40 volunteers come in, and then the weather was against us. So that first day hike, we ended up, we have an art and craft group that we make things from like recycled material and kind of cool stuff. So we do that as a sale donation kind of a thing, and then our bake sale. So we found that first day hike, we raised more money than we did having like the art in the park and the fall fest, and it was less work. So we think we're going to concentrate now on the public hikes. And some people say 400 people they don't like to hike with, and we can only hike probably at the day use. We get to go onto the dam. We have special permission to be at the top of the Army Corps dam. So that's, I think, why also people want to do our hike.
For those looking to learn, the park features a number of events with a park naturalist that are open to the public. Can you tell us about some of these events?
Yes. So Rob Bergstresser, all of our parks with DCNR, I'm constantly telling people, if you filter DCNR calendar of events, you can go to search any park, and then those parks that have naturalists, particularly maybe full-time naturalists or even seasonal, offer programs. Rob's programs are getting more attended. COVID obviously took a hit, but he'll do star watch, like a star program at night, owl programs, bird programs. He's offering geocaching. One of our friends group board members, she's going to be leading kayaking. So his programs, and they're all educational. Like programs we have are more social, if you want to say. So yeah, and of course, if you get him for birding, he's just awesome. Unfortunately, as a seasonal educator, I wish we had somebody full time. So that's just to name a few. And they would all go to just DCNR calendar events, put in Beltsville or Hickory Run or whatever, and then you just register because they require registration, but there's no fee, which I don't think many people in Pennsylvania know this. We were just out at Black Mushanan, and first person I met was the ranger, and I said, "So, what would you recommend doing?" And she says, "Oh, you came at a great time. They were having pontoon, boat rides every hour, and they don't charge for that."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so we actually, Devin, our first manager here, had snowshoes, so we could have had like the loaner programs, but then they got donated because we weren't getting enough snow. So it's pretty amazing, And in fact, as we traveled just this last week, all the state parks, the diversity of programming is pretty awesome. It's like, um, yeah, yeah. I don't know how long they've been doing the education. Because as a kid, I grew up in state parks, and did they have them way back then? Back when I walked 5 miles.
Yeah. Well, I say to people that they go, I had no idea. Like, I wish they would have told me. It's like, you just weren't looking for the information, because I'm telling you, all DCNR, all friends groups, all they do is spend time telling you to go to state parks, check out these events. And a lot of time it just kind of doesn't hit the people at the right time, but they're definitely promoting it as always. I went to 9 state parks over the weekend during Memorial Day weekend, and we just saw so many like walk the creek ones where they were showing people in fish and amphibians. Then they were doing arts and crafts over here. Then they were doing events focusing on an owl prowl this way, and seeing these animals and learning about these stars and these things. It's incredible the amount of events that are created and how many aren't known to so many people. Even people that love state parks don't even know about them.
Absolutely. In fact, with the art in the park, again, why reinvent the wheel? But I reached out to the friends groups to find out what they were doing for fundraiser, because that's, I look as the chairperson. One of our main mission is to raise money to help our park. So another woman was so kind, I forget what park, to sort of, we didn't model it exactly art in the park, it was different, but yeah, I mean, this is where what works for some parks, like parks that have firewood and they can sell it and stuff like that. But we've recently kind of came across this dine and donate, where local restaurants will designate a day. And if you come in and you tell the server, they'll donate anywhere from 10 to 25% back to that nonprofit. So we're finding that, and actually our membership, people are just at like a first day hike, people were just making donations. So, I think we're catching on at our park, and our group just keeps growing, and we joke, but seriously, how do we keep, how do we handle this, growth? Um, so that's what we're kind of always working on and trying to figure out. But yeah, literally, I say to people, like, if you wanted to do just the programs that Rob offered and then programs we offer, and obviously right in our local area, it's pretty diverse. And I'd like to think too that we keep saying we wish we could take these programs into our school systems, because Rob had done a volunteer training this year, which I was not able to attend, but our previous educator, I didn't realize that some topographical volunteers work within DCNR, as a conservation volunteer. You don't have to be a friends group member to be a volunteer in our state parks or forests. So we say to people, you don't have to pay anything. Like, we have birders that work on our bluebird boxes, and they're not friends members, and they've been doing that for 30 years.
Yeah, there's spots open. Just
Yeah.
yeah, reach out. And now, let's hear from our sponsors. Registration is now open for the Keystone Trail Association's 25K Trail Challenge on September 7th. Open to both trail runners and hikers, the KTA 25K Trail Challenge is the perfect opportunity to push yourself to the limit, with steep climbs, rocky terrain, fantastic vistas, and scenic forest hollows along the picturesque Lower Susquehanna River Gorge. Participating in this challenge helps further the organization's mission of protecting, preserving, and providing safe and enjoyable hiking opportunities within Pennsylvania. Register today at kta-hike.org. Are you looking for your next adventure? Unlock some of the best landscapes in Pennsylvania with the incredibly detailed, highly curated, waterproof trail maps from the folks at Purple Lizard. They create extraordinary maps for Pennsylvania State Forest for people who love to explore the outdoors. Find them in your local outfitters, bike shops, and bookstores, or visit purplelizard.com, where your next adventure begins. Hey, podcast explorers! Did you know Pennsylvania State Parks and Forests are the heartbeat of our Commonwealth? They're not just natural wonders, they're vital for our well-being and local economies. That's where the Pennsylvania Parks and Forests Foundation steps in. They rally volunteers, raise funds, and advocate for these precious lands. Join the movement to preserve and enjoy our outdoor treasures. Learn more at paparksandforests.org. Let's keep Pennsylvania untamed and beautiful together. All right, back to the show. Beltsville has more than 16 miles of trails that follow wooden paths, old roads, mowed walkways, and more. Do you have any trail recommendations for visitors?
I asked my husband that today because we both say we can't say there's one that's more favored than the other. It's like all of them we love. It just depends on like the weather, the time of year, and how much you want to do. But no matter how many times I keep going on our trails, when I'm on it, it's my favorite. Like Sawmill would be a great trail to be on in the heat of the summer because it's right along the creek. I like Wild Creek because obviously you can go down and see the falls, and then there's a longer, like 2-hour hike to do Cove Ridge, which massive, hemlocks and pines and diversity of habitat. And then you can see the lake as you're on the one side, and just stop and watch boaters or just listen to the birds. Yeah, so I can't say I have a favorite. They're all my favorite.
You said earlier that your favorite times of year are spring and fall. What would you say is the best time to visit the park? Do you think summer because of the beach and because of the lake, or do you think there's another time?
Good question. I think it just depends on like what you're into. Like if you want to come in the winter, what I love about winter is when we do have snow, just the contrast between like the bare trees and the white snow and the lake and then the blue skies. So if you're like a photographer, it's great, great medium there. The fall, obviously, your color, as summer for sure. Like with our friends group hikes weekly, we tend to actually have less hikers in the summer, mainly because of the humidity, not so much about the hike being long or anything. Yeah, so when I first moved here, and the when I found out these other hikers are coming out, I mean, literally, we had like, I don't know, 12 inches of snow. They had like plowed some of the park, parking lots. And I used to say to my aunt, like, there's older women up here out here in the middle of winter hiking. I mean, I think you either move here because you love the outdoors, or you are here because you've been born, raised here. And I have to think that a lot of the people born here probably don't even know what our park is about. We've had some members that are long time, um, they've been born and raised here, and they don't even know that our trails exist. So, they're just very excited. They're in retirement now, so they can actually enjoy it. But I find that interesting because when we moved here, we pretend we were tourists, and here we are 12 years later, and we're still enjoying it. Like nothing's getting old.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best part too. And let's just say, you do get bored of one state park. Where you guys are located, there are so many great state parks and public lands right around you that you have the opportunity to go to here or to there. You stop down for Washington Crossing, or you go to Hickory Run. I mean, there's such a great opportunity in that section of Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania, that there's so many beautiful spaces that you can't find everywhere else in the Commonwealth.
Absolutely. When my son and I used to come here and camp at Hickory Run every year, and I used to say, I'd love to live up here, and I didn't know that it would, manifest into like living in Carbon County. But yeah, I mean, I grew up near Ralph Stover State Park, and it was, I guess, back in the day, underutilized, right? And then spent Thanksgiving, before we moved up here, having Thanksgiving in one of their like pavilions after my dad died, and just having like heated up on the grill. And then obviously Washington Crossing. I used to run a road race every year when it was more the historical park, and now it's back to the state park and the canal, the Delaware Canal. And then Jacobsburg. We've only been to Jacobsburg like twice, and that was during snowshoe season. We got to, loaner program with the snowshoes. And then Big Pocono has the vista, right?
Yeah.
And then just traveling out there to the wilds, we what probably 5 state parks we took in a week. Um, and we've been out there 4 times now, and we can't get enough of them. And that's what we said when our neighbor said, "Where are you going on vacation?" We're like, "To the mountains." And I said, obviously we love the mountains, and I particularly feel really blessed to live here in Pennsylvania, and to think that the 2.2 million acres, is could take a lifetime just to sort of visit all this stuff. Like you're running in every state park. That was like that's a goal. Not to run, but I want to get my passport stamped. I think I'm up to like 58 parks.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was I kind of thought the passport was like a kid's thing until again, it's not. I mean, it could be and it is, but I am just a kid in a grown-up body.
Yeah, I mean, any chance you get to go somewhere and put a stamp in a book, there's something just so rewarding about it. And I don't know what it is. It is very like if you were to just be like, "Oh, this is just for kids." I guess you could kind of agree with that, but then again, I love stickers and stamps, so it's like, yeah, just put a stamp in my passport. I mean, I'm on my second passport. My wife, I think we just counted, is around 70 plus. So she's in a, probably in the next year, she's going to complete her first passport and I'm going to complete my second. And I still plan on exploring Pennsylvania state parks till the day I die.
Oh, so you mean you filled your first one and you literally bought a second one and you're going back to get stamps in that one?
Yeah, I think I'm close like 58, 60, 65, somewhere around there.
Wow. Because what I've been doing is like when we went to visit these parks is like the one woman said, "I'll stamp it again," and then I date it. But that's a great idea. I never thought of that. Like go year to year and then just keep piling up your passports. I love that idea. And I think what I wish they would do is when we first began, as you may have found, like we got up to Big Pocono, I was so excited to get my stamp, and it's not there. They're a part of that complex.
Yeah, that's one of those weird things where all of a sudden you get to a park and they're like, "Oh, here's the 7 missing stamps I have." Like
Yeah.
there's those that have it. I mean, when me and my wife Abby were going for Memorial Day, and we went to 9 parks, and then we went to the Wildflower Preserve as well, which isn't a state park thing, but it's, we want to check it out. When you get 3 stamps in a row, you're like, "Oh man, let's go 4 for 4 today." And then you get to the fourth one, they don't have a stamp. You just kind of head down, like, "Come on, guys, what are we doing? Just put out more stamps."
Yeah, yeah, and it becomes kind of like Ralph Stover, for instance, because I grew up there. Once I bought my passport, I would not cheat. Like I had to go back
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and get my stamp, from a real person, not just say, So, yeah, I mean, we wanted to get out to Presque Isle, I guess it is, and out that way. There's maybe what 3 that are, kind of broken up, but we didn't do it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's well, shall I say, an addiction?
It's definitely a severe enjoyment. I could and by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, we're talking about the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation stamp passport, where you get stamps for all the state forests and then all the state parks, 124 state parks, 20 state forests. Every park you go to, you have the opportunity to go up and get a stamp, and it's a great way to mark a trip. It's a great way to kind of have your own memory of where you were and what you did at a certain time. And I love, we visit several parks in a weekend, so it's great to just be like, "Oh yeah, remember that trip where we did, these 5, and we remember the story about the family over here, or remember the kids playing over there." And it's just these cool memories you get to have that if you didn't write it down or if you didn't mark it, you wouldn't remember it because they were small and they're not things that you're going to remember forever. So if you don't write them down, then you're not going to really remember them.
Yeah, and I don't know if you found out, but when you go to the state forest offices, like we just went up to, I guess it was around the SB Elliott State Park.
Yep.
The woman in there, like their buildings are very, the brand new kind of Leeds buildings, but they have all of the state forest like brochures right there, and so like obviously we have a shoebox of all of our maps and stuff, and we just got that purple lizard one, which is like a totally awesome map. But talking to the lady at the state forest is so different than talking to your state park people.
Sure.
And I think if I had to work, I would probably choose the state forest. And I just actually found out when we were away that now they have obviously that they've had like the primitive camping where you would just register, but now there's a $10, fee, which is great. The parks and forests need the money. Um, but I said to the woman, I said, "Oh, now are people going to know about our state forest?" It's like probably growing up, I did not realize those parks that I had right around the corner. I mean, we recreated in them, and maybe DCNR has evolved. Like, did they have educational programs back in the 70s and 80s? I don't know. It's a good question, but I just find, and I don't know about you, but like if you look at the DCNR website and you look at like the website for Fish and Boat and Game Commission, like if you like to learn, you can spend a lifetime just on their website and
Oh boy,
PPFF.
yeah, yeah.
Like PPFF, I don't know how they do it with such little staff and the amount of information, the amount that that group does. It blows me away.
Yeah. It's really impressive when you, like you and me, when we start to work with these organizations and then you go, wow, you're able to do so much with so little, able to either stretch a penny or you're able to have one person take on so much work. It really is incredible being able to see what they're able to do. I mean, DCNR, no matter who it is, Bureau of Forestry, DCNR, Parks and Forest Foundation, Keystone Trails, Appalachian Trail Conservancy, like these people just do so much with so little. So like any opportunity you can to give back, whether that be financially or whether that be volunteering to clean up a trail or just volunteering to help them build a website or do this or do that, every little bit helps significantly.
Absolutely. And within a friends group, as you were saying earlier, is like the diversity of people in the background. We come together for a common good because we all care about this thing called a park, or a forest. But then I was saying to you that I would love to have like friends meeting friends, like, if we could have some planner of a person saying, okay, friends of Prince Gallitzin's going to have a bash. All the friends groups, come and have this giant party and sleepover. And then we move up, like here at Hickory Run, they have those Camp Daddy Allen, and there's another one. They're kind of kids camps. And I thought, oh, that would be so fun to have that. But that would take organization, somebody to organize it. And I don't want to do it, but I want to do
That's
it.
what I was about to say. Diana, are you volunteering? Is this what I'm hearing? You want to take on more?
Yes, yes. And that's the thing, I think I've always volunteered and given back to my community in one way or the other, and I'm still astounded that, like, people can be bored. And if parks and forests aren't your gig, I mean, there's just volunteerism throughout our world, right? But I have just found giving back to nature-based kind of organizations, and it's been different working for a state versus a county park system. And and then actually years ago, we, the Friends Group and our state park, were given an award for our, greatness, I guess. So we had the privilege of going out to, oh gosh, it was out at Ohio Pile, like the awards ceremony. So here it's an award given and voted by the state parks of all of our states, including Canada, I believe. I forget the acronym. So like here I was interfacing with directors from Oregon and directors from Florida, about their state parks. And I thought to myself, wow, why didn't I do this for a living? Why didn't I know about this?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that like park directors or park staff people certainly don't do it for the love of the money, right?
Absolutely.
it's it's the love of what they're doing, and it was pretty amazing to get to meet all those state park, directors. I never knew that existed, and I'm in my 60s now.
Yeah, as somebody who's about to be hitting 40 soon, I think back and I go, I I wish I would have found this earlier. I wish I would have understood what this is all about. Granted, I would have learned about it in New Jersey and not Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up. But I mean, it's one of those things where you go, man, my path could have been a lot more different had I had a little bit more information. But then again, you go, thank God I'm learning about it now. Like the opportunity to be able to do something now where I have the time, the energy, and the money to be able to do it. I'm glad I at least found out about it now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's how, like I've always been a hiker and a camper, and I recreated in other state parks. But to know what those parks can do inside and out, to me only came when I volunteered. And I can't even say that I know much about our park or any of the parks, I mean, and I've been since 2015 learning about them. It just it blows my mind. And then typically, like, we had this man call, he actually emailed me and he said, "Hey, I was running by the reservoir down by the dam and I saw a nest for a mapping turtle." Well, it was in an email and I thought, it was a misspelling called a snapping turtle. Come to find out, I made contact, and this guy used to teach in our local high school, so he knows his stuff. So I contacted the Army Corps, and they're a great bunch of people. Like, that's the unique part about our park too. So here, my husband met with the teacher and an Army Corps guy, and they drove down to where they saw the nesting. So the Army Corps are actually going to like kind of like flag it, and then probably bring in a biologist, because a mapping turtle, I kind of did my research. They're not common, but they're not uncommon. I don't think they're any harm to our parks. But like the Army Corps guy was saying, like, which I didn't probably know, that, obviously Army Corps wooders, they need to know what vegetation or what, fish or turtles, because it's all one system, it's all connected. So I just found that just pretty amazing that, the man was a member. We don't see him a lot. And, he called me, and now I can tell our educator, and I'll probably take our hiking group there, And then a local Facebook group just posted a picture, a video of a bear that swam from one side to the other just this past weekend.
Oh, wow.
And he probably swam to the side that like we live on, and so he like my husband said, he was probably a good 500-pound bear, and I find it interesting because living with bears was new for me, but I mean, they are showing up everywhere, right? But that's what I love about living here, and, um, seeing all the wildlife and the birds, and the unique, what are they called? Oh, it's a spring flower, and it's kind of rare. It'll come to me probably, and our first educator, she said, "I'm only gonna show you, but I have to kill you if if you show anybody else this." And then actually we had a man in our group, he's moved away. He worked as a forester, and so he took us out, and he was on a quest to find the big trees of Beltsville. So it's called like a diameter tape, the way you measure a tree. And so he found like 5 big trees of Beltsville, and I said, "Why don't you write a book? The big trees of Beltsville." So like, if you're into the big hemlocks and the big champion trees, like, that, I mean, and he would take our group out to do tree identification hikes and stuff. So yeah, I mean, you can never not you can always just learn, in my opinion. And our parks and forest, and that's just Pennsylvania, right? And that's just the state level. We're talking county, and then conservancies, and open space.
Townships and public lands and hunting space, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty endless. Penn's Woods is it's a good moniker.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't even know about ganglands. My husband's kind of a hunter, but I'd see signs, and, I just thought, "Oh, we're not allowed to be there," and I didn't even know we could be in our state forest as a kid, like, it just, I wonder how many people, as young people, are learning. Maybe it's because more of us are learning, and we're passing the, like, my grandbabies, know more things probably about a state park than I ever did at 3 and 4 and 5. So, and it's funny with Caleb, it's the Woodsy the Owl, 5 recycle, reduce, reuse, and so if we see something on a trail, and he'll be, "Nanny, nanny, this doesn't belong here."
Yeah,
And
give
I'll
a
say,
hoot,
"What?"
don't pollute.
Yeah. And so what are we gonna do? We're gonna pick it up and bring it out, we're gonna leave no trace. So I'd like to think that when I'm educating, sometimes when people are in like places they shouldn't be, it's not that they shouldn't be there, but if they understood why perhaps it's closed, and they understand, that there's a reason for it, they tend to respect it more, instead of just know this or know that. Like the leave no trace model really has a great way of teaching people. And my hope is when people understand more about our out of doors, we can all learn to respect it and take care of it. It's no one's job. It's all of our jobs, right?
And anyone listening to this, if they want to learn more about Leave No Trace and the Leave No Trace 7 principles, listen to our podcast all about that earlier in season 2. It's a great episode. I really enjoy it. Do you have any tips for people who plan on visiting the park?
Yeah, use one of the principles. Know before you go. Definitely check to see that the park's closed, before you come out here from one of the cities. Um, pack proper footwear if you plan to hike, water. Literally, the park is well, it's remote, but not. We know because we live here. It's not. But when you first come here, you might think you're in the middle of nowhere because it feels that way because it's just diverse with vegetation and lakes and stuff. But yes, go to the DCNR calendar of events. Go to Pennsylvania Parks and Forests calendar of events. Kind of filter where they might be having a program. Like we were out at the Black Cook Forest State Park, and there was a reenactment. We didn't plan it for that, but that was just the gift of the time of the year that we were out there. But yeah, I would always say to people, read the website of the park you want to visit, and then check out the friends group to see if is a friends group at that park. And you can always reach out to the friends groups because most of us live around our parks. Like a lot of times, staff for parks, they might live like an hour away or whatnot. So, like, yeah, the resources are there. Check it out and plan to stay for a while.
If someone is interested in becoming a volunteer with the Friends group, how should they reach out?
In our group, there's two ways. You can go to the Friends of Beltsville's Facebook page and filter through the information, and there's a button you can click. Well, you can go to Pennsylvania Parks and Forest and filter through their tab for Friends Group and find Beltsville, and it would be an online donation. Or if you're in our park, you can stop at our park office. We have brochures there, and you can leave, your membership information there, and then I would be in touch via email to people. We have people that are members that just donate, and we have members that do stuff. They both donate money, but they also, help out in many ways. So yeah, and we have so much. Like I was telling you earlier, we have a weekly hiking group. This time of the year, we could have kayaking, canoeing, and biking. We have a monthly art group. We did have a reading group. We did actually erect a little free library. And currently, we're working on the Bags to Benches project through Next Trek. So we've gotten a bench for our park just in recycling plastic. We've now got a bench for our local library, and we're getting one for our local nature center. And then we're going to come back in November because they can only you can only get one bench per year per nonprofit. So we don't want to stop because otherwise we'd be maybe throwing these trash plastics out. So yeah, it's endless what you can do. And we do find that most of our people are in retirement or, creeping up in years, but we're looking for young people. There's certainly work you can do on the weekends. And also, younger people have tech. You have a lot of tech knowledge
Sure.
that we don't.
Yeah. So that's your invitation. Sign up.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and there's 40, friends groups with parks and state and forest. So you don't have to just be at Beltsville. But we would love to have them.
Diane, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
I really, really, I couldn't wait to meet you because I followed you when you ran that mile in all the state parks. You were one of those crazy people. And then I don't know if you were the one that started it, but it was right around that where then you had that one person who went for the record of visiting all at the time 121 state parks. And then another, it was I think a young guy, and I'm like, either you started this this crazy stuff, or it just exploded. Like
COVID.
yes,
COVID did that
yes.
for everybody.
And I think that we have seen an increase in visitors, not just in our park, but our county parks, our national parks. And, what I would probably want to say to people is, you don't have to know about being in the outdoors, but what I would wish for all of the people is to learn more so that you can learn to respect it and love it, and then allow it to be for generations to come, because there's really just in our one global world, right? The open space is not really vast anymore, right? and to realize that we can take care of it through styles of farming or gardening, that we're not shopping, commercially all the time, get the experience in the out of doors, it's one planet, and there is no away, we can't throw it away.
Yeah.
So I am grateful.
Luckily, we have a lot of amazing volunteers and people that are leading organizations that are trying to take care of these spaces like you. So we thank you.
Yes, thank you, Christian. Thank you so much.
I want to thank my guest, Diane Schweikuski, for joining the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Meta for more information about upcoming episodes. You can support the podcast by buying merch at hemlockstohelpenders.com, or you can click support this show in the podcast description to provide a monthly donation. If you're a Pennsylvania business interested in advertising with the podcast, email us at hemlockstohelpenders@gmail.com. This has been Hemlocks to Hellbenders. I'll see you out there. Hosting, production, and editing by Christian Alexanderson. Music by John Sauer. Graphics by Matt Davis.